Good morning, everybody. This is John Silk. We will be live in 5 minutes. Good morning, this is John Silk, and we'll be live in 2 minutes. Good morning, everybody. I'm John Self, and welcome to Career Live here on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you would let me know if you can hear me, that would be great. Sometimes the streaming services have kind of interesting challenges, and I keep thinking, well, maybe it's an operator error, but in fact, this is such incredible technology, but it is to some extent new technology at the retail level. Larger organizations like TV networks have been doing this stuff for a long time, and we are a little new to the game, but it is an exciting way to talk about what you love to do and share your information with other people. We had a comment this morning from Abiel Abrams on LinkedIn who praised the content. And Abiel, thank you very, very much. I appreciate you listening. And anytime, if you have questions that you want to ask one-on-one, you can always schedule a free, no obligation call by going to our website, going to the bottom of the page, and hit the Talk to John button. Wow, what a busy couple of days. So let's start off with the economy. And although some of the concerns I have I may sound a little negative, I want you to know that overall, I'm a kind of an optimistic kind of person. All my newspaper experience notwithstanding. Yesterday, SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, put out an alert that talked about how energy costs were going up again, and that was spiking inflation, which moved to 3.7%, which is at a 27-month high. Now, one of my great friends, Peter Piccinini, who watches us on LinkedIn, and he, I think he shares on some of the concerns as well. There are 5 KPIs that we follow to keep an eye on the economy, not because we're in the economic predicting business, but because we're in the business of helping people prepare their careers for the future. And so that's our focus. That's why we look at this data. So the Fed their still stated goal is get inflation to 2%. So although the consensus on the various business talk channels or business fluff channels, whichever you want to call them, is that the Fed probably will not take action to raise rates on this next week when they meet. It is entirely possible, if inflation continues to inch upward, that they will raise rates again in September. Now, interest rates are already have gone up substantially. So in the first, second, third quarter of next year, there are a lot of businesses that borrowed money at very, very low rates. That'll be on a shorter term loan agreement. There will be a lot of refinancings in the first, second, third, or fourth quarter of next year, and so we should start seeing there will be some companies that won't survive. So one of the things that you need to keep your eye on, if you're watching your career, thinking about your personal spending and how you're going to address an uncertain economic condition, especially one that could become more volatile as we enter into the silly season, also called elections. So the 5 KPIs that we're following, and I will say that some of them are a little bit troubling. Interest rates likely to increase. Interest rate increases usually results in more layoffs. And layoffs are already escalating in areas such as healthcare, retail, financial services. Yesterday, Citibank announced a major restructuring of their executive branch. The CEO said that there was an unnecessary layer, and we're seeing that across the country in healthcare, an industry that is still struggling from a post-pandemic hangover, if you will. And so there's been a ton of layoffs in healthcare. And the bad news is the competition for jobs. If you're in the management level, the competition for those jobs has always been is more intense than what you've seen in the job market statistics. But that market is now tightening even more. So interest rates is one KPI we pay attention to. Commercial real estate, what's the vacancy rate? Last report around 20%, but we expect that to start edging upward when when landlords start having a higher vacancy rate. That means they're going to have trouble funding their loans on those buildings, and so there may be some restructuring going on there. Bankruptcies are already trending up, and you need to keep an eye on bankruptcies. Energy cost, of course, yesterday's report that energy costs has pushed up inflation is sort of established. One of the most important, and I think one of the most reliable, is the Treasury curve. short-term interest rates versus longer-term interest rates on the Treasury bonds. Shorter-term interest rates are usually have a lower yield because they turn quicker. Longer-term rates, usually longer-term bonds, Treasury bonds usually pay at a higher rate. Well, it's inverted, and when it is inverted for any period of time, and it has been inverted for quite a long time now, that has been over the last 50 years 100% accurate predictor of a recession. So nobody knows. This is still, even though these are pretty reliable KPIs, nobody knows for sure. The one thing we do know is that you need to be prepared. It just doesn't make any sense to sit back and think that it can't happen to me, because it can and does happen to people that feel like they're bulletproof all the time. You know, when I work with new clients in our career transition program, if they've been laid off or if they've, gotten crosswise with their boss and have been terminated, the one thing I always advise them to do is to work on the skill of sustainable success, that you always can achieve success and that it's sustainable. That's apparently a great naval term for promotion. Thanks to my friends T.D. Smyers, who is going to be a guest on our Self-Perspective program. And so you want sustainable success, and you want to be indispensable. You want to be so valuable to the organization that they're going to look someplace else because they want to keep you in the organization. So great performance, sustainable success, and being indispensable are the best things you can do. Kissing up is not the same thing. So you do it. Words are good, but you got to do it with performance. And so that's something I want to share with you. Be a little bit nervous. It's always that's a great way to kind of create some edge, is be a little bit nervous. Okay, so now let's shift gears a little bit before we start taking the questions and answering questions. There's something we're working on that I'm extremely excited with. When we have more remote work now, and so there's a sort of a loss of a sense of community. People enjoy the benefits of working remotely. The quality of life for a lot of people has dramatically improved. Now, there are some big banks that are trying to come down with the iron hand and say you have to be in the office every day. And those are usually the bank officers. Jamie Dimon comes to JP Morgan Chase comes to mind because he built a new building and he has all these empty cubes, and he wants his cubes filled. The heck with that, you may have to take an hour and a half train ride each day. So everybody has a report that says, hey, we are more unproductive if you work from home. And there are other people who have reports that say you're more productive if you work from home. So at this point, we have dueling studies and CEO egos that are in the mix. Now, I can understand there are certain jobs you have to do on site, and those are not in the mix for this discussion. But I hope you're able to resolve that. Grindr, one of the dating services that's owned by a Chinese holding company, told all of their workers they had to come back to work, and they lost a substantial number of their employees who just said, no, we're not doing that. Okay, so let's talk about building a community. One of the reasons we do these live broadcasts every Thursday is we want to build a community. So if we're giving you the type of information that you find helpful, then share this with your friends and get them to join us. Now, there's something else we're going to take a step further. If you've ever been laid off and you've gone out to try to find a career transition coach, you found, first of all, the price is all over the marketplace. There are some people that specialize in industries. A really good guy in healthcare is a guy named Jim Wiederhole. And I think Jim is a little bit younger than me, so he's still ticking, and he's been around doing this a long time, and it has a lot of connections. But they focus on the traditional one-on-one coaching. And for some people, that's the best way. But a lot of people have come to us and said, I need some help, but I really have to watch my spending, especially if we may be going into a recession. I need to start putting money aside for my rainy day fund in case I get laid off. And so we've thought, information is becoming commoditized, and I'm an information provider. And so there's something out there you probably heard about called AI. And everybody identifies AI with ChatGPT and Bard. Okay, that's the visible sign so far. But let me tell you something. I watched Mark Benioff being interviewed the other day by Stephanie Ruhle on the 11th Hour. And Benioff, who found one of the founders and is now chairman and CEO of Salesforce, said that some of the AI they're using is so advanced. And he said that the Chat GPT, he said that's just for people to play with on the internet and kind of lulls you to sleep. He said the AI we're using and evaluating and developing is so sophisticated and capable of doing so many different things. There was a congressional hearing started yesterday talking to leaders in the industry about this Congress. How do you regulate this? Can you regulate this? What kind of restraints, what kind of ethical standards need to be applied? So that's all very important. That's going to make, at some point, me giving you information, I will be irrelevant. The AI programs will be able to package up videos and information and ship it to you, probably at either no cost or low cost. So people, what we're looking at, okay, I've got maybe 3 to 5 years to be the information source. So what do I do to add value to the equation? We decided, and talking to a lot of other content providers and people in the creator space, that people miss community and they want community. And so what we're doing is we're overhauling most of our programs. Yes, you will still be able to pay the a la carte fees for our interview courses and our all our various courses. You can still buy those on an a la carte. However, if you want to belong to a community, we are now creating a new way to get access to our programs. Let me tell you about it because I'm really, really excited about this. And I've had a lot of great advice, Peter Piccinini, my son Walker, people that I've done business with over the years. I've talked to a lot of people, and they feel this is the way of the future. People may not be willing to pay for information, but they will pay for a community that is supportive of their goals. And so we're building a community for career success. And we want to bring in people into this community who are committed to their success. And we want our community to be integral to career success. So what we're trying to do is, first of all, is make it affordable and approachable. And so in our community, if you become a member and it's month to month, you don't have to join for a year, you don't have to pay all this money up front. That puts the onus back on us to be sure that we are driving value, that we are providing you value. Because if we don't, you'll leave. That's a big challenge. And so we're going to work really hard to earn your trust. What we're doing for $49 a month, you will have access to 11 of our career management, career development courses that are currently online. And we'll be adding more, and that will be included as part of the free package. The only 2 or 3 courses that will have additional fees are those courses that require substantial amounts of my time in a one-on-one setting. So now, currently, the fee for our career transition is $500 enrollment and $249 a month. Because of a lot of cost and the increasing demand, that will now be $1,250 and $289 a month, I think is what the number is. But if you are a community member and paying $49 a month, you can get access to that course in a modified form. But for the most part, all the same value with just not as many one-on-one coaching sessions for $99 a month. So you'll get one big detailed coaching session at the midpoint of the course, and then you will get phone calls, and then we will have weekly meetups, and we will also have monthly coaching sessions. So I think that this is a way to lower the cost, add value. One of the things we will also be doing is sponsoring monthly webinars with key speakers talking about leadership and talking about their own experience. The first one we'll be offering to the broader community, not just the initial community, because we want everybody to see the quality we're putting together. And it'll be an interview on leadership with T.D. Smyers. Mr. Smyers is currently a career coach. He is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I met him years ago. He was a candidate, one of my searches, and I was so taken by his approach to leadership and his leadership philosophy that we wanted to recruit him. But I think a better looking recruiter with Red Cross spirited him away from me. So TD and I have remained friends, and he will be our first guest. And he talks about sustainable success and talks about his life growing up in Boyd, Texas, and graduating from Annapolis with a bachelor's degree in physics. He went on to command some squadron. He was a naval aviator and flew the Orion submarine hunter planes. A great guy, and you will enjoy his comments about leadership and how the military does such a great job in preparing tomorrow's leaders. So that'll be our first webinar. If you have suggestions of people you would like to have on as guests, we would love to hear from you. Just drop some suggestions in the chat box, or you can email me at info@johngself.com. So this career community is $49 a month, a lot of value, and you can save thousands of dollars by getting you just over our normal a la carte pricing or with any other career coaches. Career coaching with the one-on-one is anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 to $6,000 or $7,000 or more a month. So $99 plus the $49 membership fee, I think, is a good deal, and we will be there to support you. So I hope you'll consider that. The membership opens on September 25th at noon, and you can sign up then. Okay, and if you're not satisfied, you can drop out at any time. I would ask you to give us a couple of months to prove our value, but if you're not satisfied, then you can drop out at any time. So that's kind of what we've been working on in our spare time, and I hope that I hope it'll be beneficial to you. We've done a couple of videos on our YouTube channel. Check those out. Join us for Success is one that kind of goes into greater detail, and then this morning a great little snippet from the movie Up in the Air, and about how people sometimes get laid off and they miss they realize that suddenly the job they've been doing is not the job they want to do. And so it's a great little snippet from that movie this morning. So let's get to the questions. How much does outplacement coaching cost? Well, I just touched on that. It can run anywhere from $1,500 a month for maybe one or two coaching sessions a month and a lot of self-study, to $6,000 to $10,000 a year for an engagement. Now, $1,500 a month, that's an engagement price, and it's usually over 4 to 5 months. And once you have finished with that engagement, then that's pretty much it. They don't provide you ongoing coaching. In our program, even with your career community, we stay with you. We stay with you until you place, even at the $99 fee. Have been reading about your career community. How much does it cost? We talked about that. What is the value? I think the value is really multiple. A, giving you access to the information you need to advance your career at the lowest possible cost. Number two, the allergies are still hacking me up this morning. But number two is that we bring people together for meetups and people who are all committed to growing their career. LinkedIn started off with great promise. It's a peer-to-peer networking platform. But now every time you turn around, LinkedIn has their hand out for another quarter. If you want to watch this or watch that, there's a lot of free content on LinkedIn. What we want to do, but there's not much community. So what we want to do is build community. And we would love to get your input as we move forward on how we can make this valuable to you. I have been in the workforce for 7 years. I'm ready to take the next step up. Everyone tells me that my resume should be limited to one page. What do you think? If you've been in the workforce 7 years and you can get it all on one page, God bless you. Because but the bad news is you probably don't have that many accomplishments. And with everything else that needs to be on that resume, that's going to be tough. The only people that should use a one-page resume would be someone who is a new graduate and has never had a job before, never had any really work experience. And I did say this was career coffee, so chase away the allergy cough. I think that took a cup of coffee and lost my train of thought. Gosh, isn't that terrible? The one-page resume is really just it's just for new graduates. If you're an executive assistant and you've had multiple assignments, that's a page and a half, 2 pages. Let me tell you something. I tell candidates it should be commensurate. The link should be commensurate with your experience and your accomplishments. And you don't want to list 20 accomplishments for one job and 2 for the next. You want to keep some parity there. But if you've been in the job for 7 years, I would think you're looking at a 2-page resume, and that is not uncommon. So listen, a lot of people hear stuff or they read stuff on the internet, and they just take that to be gospel. New graduate, no experience. Yeah, 1 page will do. 7 years of experience with some accomplishments. No, that's totally inappropriate. You can give 1 page, but guess what? You probably won't get picked. Why? Because they won't see any value, because you won't have any room. So that's my value there. What is a value proposition? What does that mean? If I ask you, Peter or Mark or Abioli, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And if I'm not, please call and tell me. But if I ask you, tell us about yourself, we're not asking you for a rundown of your resume, because we've got that. What we want to hear your story. We want to hear, what is it, your core, and why should we hire you? So this is something you're going to talk about: your values, your accomplishments, and your commitments for the future. And you do that in 90 seconds or less. So your value brand proposition or your value proposition is instrumental in focusing your interviewing skills and your resume. Your value proposition is so important. It's really at its core, why should we hire you? What can you bring to the table that will benefit our company? And we have in the course curriculum, we teach people how to do that. We have free downloadable forms for that. But, if you have any questions, email me at john@johnGself.com. I hear you tell executives to include your home address on the resume, yet many online coaches say it's not necessary even. It may even hurt my chances. What are they talking about? Well, recruiters are a provincial lot. I know I spent 27 years doing that, but let me tell you what that means. It means that if you are in a big metropolitan area and you're in the far north side and they are looking for an hourly worker that is, they're going to shy away from people that might have to commute 2 hours through traffic and driving to the job. And so, that's why people say, hey, don't put that there. It's not necessary in a lower level job. It's just not required. And I agree with that. But if you're an executive, one of the things that we're going to do is do a background check. And in order to do a background check, we have to have your address. Companies also want to know, where do you live? And so you can, so you can not put the address on there. It's not a big buzzkill, but make it easy for the recruiter, because we're trying to fill in database forms to capture as much information as we can. But if we have to get on the phone and call you and ask you for your address for somebody who's applying for a regional CEO job or a senior vice president of operations or finance, it's just kind of irritating. So don't be a helpful candidate. If you're an executive level, a lot of times you're dealing one-on-one with internal recruiters or search firms. If you are just applying for a lot of jobs online through Indeed, iHire, there's not been a lot of there have not been a lot of reports of privacy violations or data breaches. But there is in an open forum like that, or in a site like that, there may be more risk. Follow your conscience. But if you're an executive level person, my advice is to include the address. What is your assessment of employees who ask applicants to complete special projects? Wow, I am hearing so much about that lately. I've got several clients in our coaching practice that have been being asked to do that. So here's where I stand. First of all, I never use those. I didn't find them to be particularly helpful. The client, some clients say, oh, it's absolutely helpful. It shows us how they work. The problem is a lot of companies are abusing that process. So here's some questions that I would ask if you're asked to do a project. How many people are going to be submitting projects? Are there internal candidates? Is that internal, so you want to know that information. It's only fair to ask. If they don't want to talk about that, then maybe you're talking to the wrong company. But here's why you do that. If they're asking 10 or 15 people to present projects, that's way premature. That's just BS. That's a company recruiter that does not have a clue what they're doing, or it's a search firm recruiter that doesn't have a clue. You would only ask for projects if you're down to the last 2 or 3 people, and you're going to use that as part of the selection process. Doing a big project is not how you select people for further consideration. That's how, you've got to be able to do that using your recruiting skill. If you don't have enough of those, then maybe you're in the wrong profession. But I've seen so many people do those projects, not get picked up, and then they found out that an internal candidate was hired, and all of that information went to the new hire. So they were basically doing you're doing the onboarding for a new employee. So you might want to, there was the jobless claims report just came out. I was trying to see it. It went off the screen before I could. You don't want to be abused. And there are a lot of companies that are doing that right now. So just say, well, how many people are in the final group that you're doing this? And if they say 10 or 15, that's not the final group. And you can go ahead and do it if you want to, but I think it's probably more than likely a waste of time. Everybody that I know that's done one of those projects, the interview process never has been picked. And in probably 80% of the time, the internal candidate was picked. And the internal candidate, based on some research I did, usually had less experience. So that really what they were doing is you were helping onboard and get that new applicant that didn't have the experience up to speed. Let's see. How do you handle a question about a career setback? Well, I know some coaches that say never talk about the negative. Always pivot. Always, somebody says, well, it's sort of like the weakness question. Well, what's one of your weaknesses? Well, I don't speak Spanish. Okay. That's not what we're looking for. And that's a kind of a kiss off answer, but that's what some people say in a state like Texas or New Mexico, where being bilingual is helpful. But a lot of people say that just so they don't have to talk about themselves. When we ask those questions, we're always really interested in your emotional intelligence. So if you've had a setback, just, talk about it briefly. You don't want to get into the details. Less is more. And then quickly pivot. Let me tell you what I learned from that experience. That I had a boss, and I really, we had a conflict, and I really struggled to get that resolved. I tried to get some help, and I found out that, sometimes the people by your side aren't on your side. But I would pivot to the positive and answer that way. But acknowledge there was an issue, and just say, let me tell you all the important lessons learned. Anytime you have a challenge in work, whether it's your job or anything else, it's a learning opportunity. I got my layoff notice last month. I took some time to get my head around this setback. I took more time to finish the long list of honeydews. Now I'm ready to get back in the market. What should I do? How should I spend my days? Well, I would say this. We have a free downloadable job search schedule. So if you're in a job search and you're trying to look for some ideas or a template on how to use your time, you can download that at johngself.com. There's a red button on the right side of the page. And basically, you can go there, and there's a place where you can download the form. If you have any trouble, email me at john@johngself.com. That'll give you some guidance there. We're running out of time. I'll take a couple of more. Why do some applicants who've done a good job not advance their career, and others who have just been mediocre get the best jobs? Well, unfortunately, sometimes the people who do the best job and add the most value don't talk about their success. Oh, I just don't like doing that. And the people, some of these people who are kind of mediocre performers are really good at talking their book. They're really good at talking up their accomplishments into the extent of even exaggerating them. So if you've been passed over several times for people who are not as accomplished, that don't have the experience that you have, then you need to take stock to say, what am I doing wrong? How can I stop this from happening? A lot of times people deal with this subconscious thing in the back of their brain. It's a subconscious myth that says, if I do a good job, if I'm loyal to the company, if I'm friendly with people, I'm a good leader, that's going to be recognized and I will be promoted. Not necessarily. increasingly, especially if you're trying to move between organizations, you have to do a more sophisticated job at managing your brand. And we have some information on that online. Let's see. A friend was recruited by you. Oh, maybe I should read this quietly out for him. He said you were the best recruiter by far and over from those in other national firms. Well, that was some nice gentle smoke up my kilt. Why are you good, and why did my friend like your approach? Well, I didn't ever have a mishire in CEO searches in 27 years. And the secret to my success was I'm curious, I ask a lot of questions, and I'm not transactional. I believe I'm transformational. What does that mean? Being curious means I dig in. I want to know about the culture. I want to know about the layoff rates. I want to know what happened to the last person that had this job. I want to know how decisions are made. I want to know where to polite term, where the metal muffins are reside, the stuff that you don't go across a green pasture that looks so beautiful, and then you find yourself stepping in stuff that you don't want to track into your house. That's a meadow muffin, and you need to know where those are. And as a recruiter, I always try to develop a deep cultural profile for my applicants, but that's something we can teach you how to do. Second thing I did was I really drill down to find out what the job really was, not what HR said it was with some of their sort of nondescript and kind of off the shelf template wording. I really dug down. How are you going to define success at 90 days, at 120 days, at 180 days, or a year, or whatever the evaluation period? What does that look like? How do decisions get made? What are the hidden? I was always looking for hidden agendas, either with the boss or people who surrounded the boss, or people within the organization, either the department, division, or the whole of the enterprise. And I think if you get that information, and it's hard work, and it takes 2 or 3 days to dig down and get that, and you're dealing with organizations sometimes that don't like to talk about that. So, but I was always very successful, and then I disclosed it to the client. And I had a client once in Fort Worth that said, "Well, you can't tell them that." And I said, "Is it true?" "Well, yes, but if they read this, they might not want to come." And my response was, "Don't you think this is the least embarrassing time for them to find out?" So I worked for the client, but my clients knew that I was going to be very, very detailed, and I was going to ask a lot of questions, and I was going to tell them the good, the bad, and the ugly, because every organization has the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I think that was key to my success. Hey, everybody, I hope this information has been helpful. It's 8:04, so we've that's kind of when we got started. When we do these things, they're set up for 7:30, but we always wait a few minutes to build an audience because it takes time for the notifications to go out. So please forgive. I hope you'll join us next Thursday morning at 7:30, and we'll be talking about the economy. We'll be talking about job search strategies, specific job search strategies, and we'll be taking your questions. So cheers, everybody. I hope this has been an enjoyable experience. The economy is kind of rocky. We may be going into a bad time, but it's just cyclical. That happens. So it's not a time to go get crazy and be all depressed. It's time to get prepared. It's time to be optimistic, because let me tell you something. Yes, the job market's crowded. Yes, there are a lot of things going on out there that'll make it tough to find a job. But there's also some incredible opportunity for people who understand their value and know how to communicate that. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll talk to you next week at 7:30 a.m. on LinkedIn, YouTube, Career Live.